See, we got everything here.
Live and in color. It's Tuesday night.
Yes. There we go. And you may have heard Mark say it, live and in color, it's Tuesday night. That's right, Triple T. On August 20th, 2024, my name is TJ Ziebell. I like to call myself a professional problem solver, which I always follow up with, no, I don't know everything. I just have a unique way of asking lots of questions to help people find the solutions that they are looking for. So glad you're here. We're also live on YouTube. Hi, Mom. And let's get the intros out of the way so we can get to the meat and taters. I do have a website, thetswb.com, thetallskinnywhiteboy.com. Yes, that is what it stands for. I don't care what you find on the internet. Please don't look it up. There's some freaky stuff out there. I've been the tall, skinny white boy since way before the internet came out. So I'm the first one. Let's see, what else? I do offer a free 30-minute consultation. That is 30 minutes of my time to share with you, to ask me anything. If you have any challenges that you would like to find solutions for, I help people with depression, anxiety, phobias, PTSD. I teach classes for real estate agents, for hospitality servers, for audio, video, all sorts of interesting stuff. Life has been very good. Life has been very good to me, and I have learned a lot of crazy stuff. So I'd love sharing it with other people. And what else? Hey, it's time to introduce the tie. Every collection should have an ugly one, so this is probably what I would consider one of my ugly ones. It's going way back. Yes, I don't think these colors are even in the books anymore, but hey, it is an original Oscar de la Renta. Yeah, that's an age identifier there, isn't it? An Oscar de la Renta. I also pulled out some of my cufflinks, original cufflinks from circa early 50s. So I got some cufflinks there, and found this from my grandfather's house. What a classic that is. Look at the quality of metal in that. That is all sorts of fun stuff here. Yes. Enough of that. What else we got? If this is your first time checking in, joining us on Talk Time with TJ. The way we run things here, first hour I do my best to get through 3 topics, and then the second hour is open mic, open platform. Anybody on the call can ask questions, bring up topics, and I have everybody on the call answer first because I like to learn as well. If you're watching this as a recording, or if you're watching live on YouTube, join us. The link is always the same. I post the links on my Facebook pages under my name and under TSWB Helps page. Let's see, I think that's about it. Did that record time. Anybody got anything they would like to share from the last 7 days since we saw each other last? Any ahas, epiphanies, cool stories? Mark.
I had my, I have some new clients. They're younger gentlemen, and I'm just, again, do my thing and, create rapport and things like that. But I'm amazed how untutored a lot of these young men, are. And it's like, I have to reel it all back to the beginning. But every one of these folks are just like blown away by, and I'm blown away that they could have made it to this, at their 20 something year. And, it was just an epiphany that, people don't know this stuff. They don't know what we know. And, and if they're going to walk through life, and have that sense of, confidence and, they have, these are things that are essential to learn if you're going to have a good life, a good relationship, and just how untutored a lot of these young men are. And it was an epiphany for me to like, okay, we got to, and just to have be able to connect to these young men and, give them what it is they need. Again, it's an essential thing that we do. To pass along that knowledge so that it will be preserved and moved forward.
Absolutely.
So that was my epiphany.
No, that's awesome, and you're absolutely right on track. Back in the day, you had apprenticeships, and you spent time with grandpa and grandpa and the neighbor next door, and if somebody needed help, the parents would be like, "You're going to go over to Uncle Joe's place and you're going to bale hay," and you're like, "What? That sucks." But it taught so much stuff, and we're really missing that now. And I was super blessed. The stuff that I've learned, the things that I've picked up, I tell so many of them. My college degree is hotel, restaurant, property management, and that's about that. Out of all the things that I've been blessed to be able to learn in my lifetime. So I learned that much in school. And I learned this much in life. So, and again, that's why we do this, what we're doing here, is so that we can record these ahas, epiphanies, protocols, things of that nature. I'm hoping that somebody out there needs to hear something on here, and it can help change them, and they can share it with other people. That's why I say if you like anything you see on here, even if you don't, if there's somebody that you think would benefit from this, please share it. Not for my glory, not for it, because we got to get the information out to people some way, somehow.
The only way knowledge, again, grows is if it's shared, and you have to add, like I said, you have to, again, you have to be willing to share what you know. And like I said, I learn as much as I teach. I do a lot of teaching, but that's the only way that we move forward is, in the company of mentors and students, and that we're all should be students, but also at times we need to be mentors to the younger folk.
And I'm at that point in my life where yesterday I went to the hospital for a colonoscopy. Oh, happy times. I'll tell you one thing I learned. Back in the day, the people that didn't want you eating meat told you that you had 9 pounds of meat decaying in your intestine. No, I'm pretty sure I passed a Lego that I swallowed in 3rd grade. Yeah, there was no decaying meat left in the entire tract. And but even then, there I am, starving, dehydrated, and I'm teaching the staff in the hospital as much as I can. Handing out cards, and I'm just like, you got kids? Let me teach you the color breathing technique. This whole what's your pain level on 1 to 10? I'm like, please stop doing that. Please stop asking that question. And they're like, well, I said, it's the worst way to ask somebody who is not in good shape how they're doing, because you're asking them to focus on pain at the wrong time. Ask them, what is your comfort level? 10 is perfect bliss. 1 is absolute miserable. And they're like, what? I said, think about it. If I come in and you've got a recent broken leg, and I say, what's your pain level? Your mind instantly starts searching your body for every bit of pain it can find. And you give it a high number so that your subconscious and conscious validate, oh yeah, that's a high number. Yeah, we're suffering. This sucks. Versus you walk in the room and you go, what's your comfort level today? 10 is perfect. You're awesome. 1 is misery. And they're like, I'm looking for what part of my body is comfortable. And the part that isn't is a 2. And your brain goes, but a 2 is okay. So even if you are miserable, you've already started the healing process. And they were like, wow. I went, yeah, there's always room to grow, to learn, to change ways, even if you're the only one on this floor, if you're the only nurse, if you're the only doctor that does this, it won't take long before it catches on, because somebody else will come in and ask the patient, what's your pain level? And they're like, well, I was doing good. They asked me what my comfort level was, and I was feeling really good. And then you came in and asked me what my pain level is, and now my pain is back. Wait, they asked you what? And that wasn't even the topic of the night. But I love how we can free flow and bob and weave with stuff here. Anybody got any input, ahas, epiphanies on that little part about comfort level? Going to add this so I can make sure it's on the nightly note agenda. All right. Well, then I guess it's time to move on to the topics we're going to do our best to cover tonight. Tonight we've got who drives the bus? Free is too much. And lovable toxicity. Who drives the bus? This came, I know, shock and surprise. If you've been around Planet Triple T for a while, you know that I am a strong proponent for the fact that we all have multiple personalities. You are not the same person Friday night at happy hour as you are Sunday morning in front of the pastor, as you are Wednesday afternoon at the board meeting, as you are on date night with your significant other. They're all different personalities. And to help one of my clients, I gave him the metaphor of, okay, then all of your personalities are on a bus. But who's driving it at certain times? Are there certain times when the wrong personality comes up and smacks whoever's been driving it peacefully, knocks them out, throws them in the back seat, and then goes on the rampage ride? whether that be through Anxietyville or through depression or whatever we're feeling. If you can identify that, wait a minute, this isn't the trip that we were looking for. Why are we here? Who's driving the bus? And allow yourself to evaluate, why did they get the opportunity to take over the controls? And who needs to be driving the bus now to get us back on course? Any input on this? Yes, Michael.
Good analogy. There's a TV show that aired in 2019 called Doom Patrol. And it was basically strange superheroes. And one of the gals on it had multiple personalities. And her analogy is she would actually take a train. And so who was driving the train that was the personality that was up in the real world. So very cool.
And if this is your first time watching Triple T, or you haven't been around me for a while, I love asking the question. We hear it all the time. They have a multiple personality disorder. It's a disorder. They're a little wacko. Da da da. We all, now that we understand, we all have multiple personalities. You guys know the answer to this because you've been around for a while. When is a personality considered a disorder? Come on now. Mark.
Well, when it, when it becomes significant enough to interfere with your functioning.
Good answer. Who else has been around me long enough to... I know, I caught you guys. You're like, what? My definition is a personality becomes a disorder when it doesn't fit into the dynamics of the surroundings. Is a personality that goes out and kills people that it doesn't know personally, would that be considered a personality disorder? Most people are like, well, hell yeah. What if you're at war? What if you're special ops? You don't know the person. You just know somebody's going to die. It's either them or it's me. Is that a personality disorder? Not at that point. I mean, if I'm out there with those guys, I'm hoping that everybody, all the guys on my team, have that personality, because I want to go home. Now, if you're back home in the States, in your quiet little town where nothing's going on and everybody gets along, and all of a sudden you decide you want to go down to the movie theater and start mowing down people you don't know, yeah, it's a disorder. That's an issue. That's no good, no bueno. If you have a personality that wants you to start harming yourself, that personality would be considered a disorder. But the way we can deal with these is understanding that every one of our personalities were designed for a reason. They were created for a reason. the one that goes out and kills strangers, if you're in combat, that one was designed specifically for a reason. But when we show up with people that, we've got schizophrenic, we've got stuff like that. Well, when you think of it when you think of, that's on my side, sorry. When you think of that on our side, you have to address each personality as an individual person. And you can go in and find a way to talk to that individual personality, find out why they were created, why they exist, what is their mission. And oftentimes when they find out that everything has been taken care of, that they are now safe, they've completed the mission, sometimes those, and oftentimes those personalities can take either a rest, take a back seat, or they can completely disappear. And so again, who's driving the bus is my metaphor of keeping track of who's been the driver over a period of time. I'm completely fine, and then I saw my ex, and I lost it, da 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 da. Okay, when you saw your ex, who grabbed control of the bus? Who jumped in the driver's seat? How old were they? Why did they exist? What was it about seeing your ex that made them decide that they were going to throw out the one that has been in control and got everything going down easy street, and they decided that we can't take this anymore, get out of here, we got to go through Anxietyville, we got to go through Depression Town, we're going to self-sabotage the bus, we're going to run it into a wall. And you got to figure out sometimes you may have to have a few personalities gang up on the one that took over the controls of the bus. If you got a fighter inside, and then you've got the planner, and then you've got the spiritual, you may need all three of them to show up and grab Sad Sally or sadistic Cindy and duct tape her and handcuff her and take her to the back of the bus and zip tie her to a seat until she settles down enough to have a little intervention and go, look, he's not in our life anymore. Yes, you saw him out with somebody else. Thank God he's with somebody else. He's not with you. Yeah, but you know what he did? Yes, and we're still able to talk about it, which means we survived. And we don't have to talk about it because we survived. Open up the lesson box. Do we still have the lessons? Do we still remember what happened? Do we still remember what it did for us? Well, yeah. Good. That's all we needed. We can't go back and change the past, but we can make sure that all the lessons that we paid for so dearly have been collected, cleaned up, and preserved, so we never have to worry about going through that again. Any questions, ahas, epiphanies on that so far? Michael?
Along those lines, though, with being able to pick the different personality in each of us, it's pretty cool. In my job, I have to change my hat many times. And so you just say, oh, now I'm this person. Oh, now I'm this. And you do whatever it takes to do what you got to do. So
Exactly. How many personalities do you think I have? Holly?
See if I can find my buttons here. So a couple thoughts that I had. One is definitely that that I think that sometimes our personalities, they're problematic for us, but it's also recognizing the wisdom of recognizing when our personality is actually appropriate to the situation, and it's somebody around us telling us that that person's wrong too. So it definitely helps, is the right person driving the bus, but also saying, hey, is the right person in this situation already driving the bus? And somebody who, whether it's that, they don't like me very much, or maybe they're just jealous, maybe they're a little bit immature, whatever it is, are they trying to get me to have somebody else drive the bus because they don't like it when somebody who's growth-oriented drives the bus? They don't like it when somebody who has healthy boundaries is driving the bus.
And who's driving their bus?
And then one other thought that I had is we definitely want to have the best person driving the bus, but it doesn't always have to be a sweet, sparkly, warm, feely, warm, fuzzy kind of person driving the bus. So like one of the thoughts that came up is if you are in an active combat scenario, you don't want to have pick your fighter be like, oh, I don't want to be a fighter. Go sit at the back.
Exactly.
He's got to keep you safe. So if you're genuinely in danger, having somebody who's keeping you safe is good. If you're meeting your ex, and they're a narcissist bully who's always trying to stomp all over your boundaries. Now, you may come out with somebody a little bit unhealthy who responds in a very reactive way. That's not necessarily helpful. But if you have somebody driving the bus who knows how to hold their boundaries and call out bad behavior and fight for your rights if you're in the court system or, whatever it is, it's not necessary. One of the thoughts that came to me is certain people earn the right to be around certain of your personalities.
Yes.
The most vulnerable version of me, you're going to have to earn the right to meet that version of me. And if you haven't earned the right, there are so kind of like I was thinking through the castle, there are certain guards that in the castle that protect access to certain of my personalities. And the people who have the right to meet those people, great. And if you haven't earned that right, you don't get it. So anyway.
No, absolutely. On spot on. And that's why I say that when does it become a disorder? When it doesn't fit the immediate environment. We need to have that warrior, protective personality inside of us as well. The people that don't are the ones that get taken advantage of all the time. And they're so amazed when they see somebody else stand up for themselves. They're like, how do you do that? And the personality inside of them is like, how do you not? And when I teach my class, Identity Management University, that's all about basically taking inventory of your personalities and seeing if you could build one that would be advantageous to your collection. And I've had a couple of students go, well, how am I supposed to stay like this all the time? And I said, you're not. Nobody is the absolute same personality all the time. That would be exhausting in a way. For I guess some people you see that they're narcissistic a-holes all the time. maybe that would be one that, doesn't matter if he's that way to his mom, to his pastor, to his boss, and to his bartender. Okay, well, he's got one person driving the bus the whole time, and that person's a plick. But for us more healthier people, we will have and should have as many personalities as it takes to lead a healthy, enjoyable life when we're dealing with humans in their natural environment. That make sense? Any other input, ahas, epiphanies before we move on to the next topic? Okay. Next topic. Free is too much. Who's heard this phrase before? This one I came up with. Again, most of these come from working with clients. But one of the sayings is if you've got a couch that you want to get rid of, what's the fastest way to get rid of it? And most people, well, I'm going to put it out on the curb and put a free sign on it. It'll sit there until it rots. But if you put it out there, start off $750, put a slash through that, put $500, put a slash through that, put $250, slash through that, best offer. And somebody comes up and offers you $100, you were going to give it away for free anyway. But the perceived value made it worth more than when you said free. And I took this as a metaphor as well for one of my clients is still having challenges with self-esteem, self-worth, self-image. And I said, well, when you're out looking for your partner and you don't think you're worth that much, so basically you've hung free as a price tag on yourself, who are you going to attract? Well, I don't want to be, pompous or arrogant or why not? You can find your price level, but it's much better to start high and negotiate than it is to start low and be taken. Well, I could never have somebody like that. Well, now you've put massive amounts of value on that person and taken your value and dropped it to a terribly low level, in my opinion. You're the one that has to live with you your entire life. And you can decide if you're a Geo Metro or if you're a Lamborghini or a Ferrari. And this kind of came up because my client was talking about going back to online dating and a little deal popped in my head and I said, have you ever seen an ad for Ford, Chevy, Dodge, even Geo Metro? And they went, yeah. I said, you ever seen a ad for Lamborghini? They said, no. I said, do you know why they don't put ads on TV for Lamborghini? No. I said, because the people that buy Lamborghinis aren't watching that show. In fact, the people that can afford Lamborghinis, you couldn't make an ad to impress them because it doesn't need an ad. Just seeing a Lamborghini on the road is the advertisement. Just knowing that there's a Lamborghini on the road is the advertisement. Back in the 80s, a bunch of us motorheads all had the poster of the red Lamborghini. That was all the advertisement they needed. And so by being the high value person that your king is looking for is your advertisement. Well, but how am I going to find him? Well, yeah, you're probably going to have to be, out and about. If you're hiding in the castle, it's going to be a little more challenge for your king to find you. I'm not going to say it's impossible. You could end up, having an issue with your air conditioner, and voila, your king could show up if that's what you're looking for. And nothing against HVAC guys. I've done the work. I'm licensed universal for HVAC. I just don't want to do that kind of work anymore. But again, evaluate how would you price yourself, and how would you find the buyer? If you were a car, if you were anything. Put your level up there. Figure out who your person is. What is the top of their budget? What is their net worth? And I'm not talking dollars and cents or assets. I'm talking about personality and traits and body features that you're looking for. What is that value? Make sure that you are at that value or higher. And let that attract the buyer, your person. That makes sense? Any input, ahas, epiphanies on that? Wow, you guys are quiet tonight. Mark.
Yeah, I had a situation many years ago. My wife did Avon, and she just wanted to get out of the business. We had caboodles of stuff, Avon stuff, and so I brought it to the flea market, and I put, anything on the table, $10, and I had valued it too low. People would come, they'd look at it, this can't be real Avon stuff. It costs too much, and nobody was buying anything. So I took it off, and I took the sign off, $10, anything on the table, and I changed it. I dropped it like 25% over the retail, and within 2 hours, everything was gone because I had valued the thing that people couldn't believe that that I had priced it. So you price yourself too low, People just won't buy into it. If but when I increase the value of everything on the table, I sold out basically. So people assign value, like I said, the value they think they want, what they're looking for, and if it's priced too low, they walk away.
Exactly. 100%. Great life example right there. Michael.
That's the story of oil Olay. Back in the day, it was just in the 5 and dime. It was in the drugstore. You could buy oil of Olay, little pink bottle, for like $5. And then they were purchased, and they did a little research. And they found out people didn't want to put oil on their skin. And so they changed the name to Olay, and they kicked the price up to $50, and they sold it like hotcakes.
Interesting how that works, huh?
Yep.
So, to recap, please look at your self-worth. What are you giving your perceived value in your head at? And who are you looking to attract? And this isn't just about dating. This is about business. This is about all sorts of relationships out there. When it always cracks me up when my wife is an executive recruiter for high-level positions. And she deals with this quite a bit, where some of the pay scales that she deals with are wow. And you see who the negotiators are, and which people have a realistic value of themselves, and those that have a we're just going to call it a little inflated image of them, of their abilities and worth. But in that arena, very few of them come in shooting low, because it's a very competitive market. And yet there will still be some of those that will come in too low. And one of the things my wife commented was, a couple of them that came in too low almost didn't get interviewed, because it reflected on their potential ability. Whether it was because they didn't do enough research to see where the market was, or if they didn't think they had enough skill sets. It was all a perceived value linked to them. So, any other ahas, epiphanies, comments? Holly.
One of the thoughts, and I'm still, processing a lot of this, because this is definitely a message I need to hear, but it's the idea too of when we approach this from a place of scarcity versus a place of having options,
Yeah.
our attitude is very different. If I've got, 15 really good friends, and one of those 15 starts jumping all over my boundaries and treat me like crap, you're gone. If I've got one friend and that friend starts walking all over my boundaries and, treat me like crap, I'm probably going to keep him around because I don't want to be lonely. So.
Great comment. Which, if we don't have any other inputs on this, we can segue Beautiful segue right into the third topic of the night. Lovable toxicity. Oh, kind of like candy-coated psychosis. And we've all met, dealt with, been around those people that seem to just drain our energy. Energy vampires. Yay! All the above. But because of our relationship with them or one of their other personalities, we hang around. And sometimes to our detriment and our expense. And whether it be friends that we grew up with, people that we have to work with, people in authority that we give too much credit to, teachers that we feel required loyalty to, lovers, all the above. And oftentimes with my clients, when I start seeing these patterns and how they describe these people, when I ask them a certain question, and that question is, if you could turn back time and meet them for the first time again, knowing everything you know about them, would you introduce yourself? And then I watch and I listen very closely to the reaction. Whether it's a pause, which is an answer, whether it's a, well, yeah, which is an answer. But I've also had a number of them, even in certain relationships, where I'll ask it a different way. The way I ask it, especially for my relationship clients, is, heaven forbid, we're not putting this out there, all the above, it's not a suggestion, but if your person forgot to wake up tomorrow morning and you take whatever amount of time it takes for you to get over the grieving process, whether that be a month, a year, a decade, whatever, all of a sudden one day you meet their reincarnated twin and you instantly know it is them. Personality, absolutely everything, down to the most minute detail. Would you go up and introduce yourself? And I have had clients in relationships, in marriages, that without even having the time to think or blink, no. Like, okay. And some of them are shocked when they hear that reaction come out of their mouth. They're like, I'm like, then why are you with them? And you'll start hearing excuses. Well, because, and I hate to say it, but one of the worst ones I hear is because of the kids. And I'm like, please, no. As much as kids need a mom and a dad in a home, They absorb the energy. Doesn't matter if you guys are absolutely Oscar-winning actors for the last 10 years and you think you're pulling it off and nobody knows. Your kids do. I hear it all the time. It would be better to leave amicably and let the kids see both of you be in a healthy relationship with somebody else than to have your kids seeing the two of you trying to act amicable and flipping each other off in the hallway. Because the kids know. The other thing is, well, I really like them except for. Yes, you're right, Michael. It's that stage. But I really like them. It's just when well, they're really nice to me when they're in a good mood, but, and my answer to that is, it doesn't take much vinegar to ruin the punch. It doesn't take much rat poison to eventually kill you if you just keep taking a little bit every day. Being lonely when you are single sucks. I know, been there, done that. Being lonely when you're in a relationship sucks 100 times more. I know. Been there, done that. And so with lovable toxicity, you have to evaluate what are the pros and cons. And when it's good, is it good because of the absence of the bad? Or is it good because it's good? Eddie Murphy had a great analogy that, if you're starving, a Ritz cracker is the best thing you've ever had. I mean, like, oh my God, this is great. That's a Ritz. That's a Ritz. Oh my God, And if you're so hungry in a relationship that a Ritz cracker is a gourmet feast, you've forgotten what steak tastes like, or pizza, or all of the other good foods that are out there. And they may have convinced you that you don't have enough worth to attend the buffet. You only have enough worth for what they are going to offer you. And that's when you also have to decide, have they put the driver of your bus in place? Did they create such a beaten down personality that you're willing to let their representative that they created drive your bus because you don't feel like your bus is worth anything to anybody else? And so you're willing to let that happen. That's when it's time to take a close look at what you're being fed, the beliefs that they're feeding you. Take a good look at your personalities and see how many of them are healthy. If there are any that you could create that would help you out better, and teach them how to drive, and let those around you know, new driver alert. Things are going to change. We're going to be taking some different routes. And you may have to drive yourself to a new plot of land and start a new kingdom. Start a new tribe from scratch. Build your own castle by yourself. But in the end, make sure that you do it for the best life that you can envision, and keep envisioning better and better. And if you build the right tribe, they'll help you build a castle that will blow your mind. They will cultivate a kingdom that you only wished for. That vehicle that used to be on the wall on a poster that you thought was so unattainable, something even better will be sitting in your garage, next to the other thing sitting in your garage, if you're into that stuff. So, wrapped up in a little bundle with a bow. Any comments, epiphanies, ahas on tonight's 3 topics that I managed to pull off? Yes, Lenore.
I missed the beginning part of that. I'm sorry. Are you willing to let that happen, to let somebody else drive the bus? And I know you were just talking about it at the tail end, and you talked about it earlier. I was just trying to figure out the beginning part of it.
That's when you have somebody, a lovable, toxic person in your life that has convinced you that you're not worth, and they designed a personality that is driving the bus the way they designed it, and it is not near the worth that you are valued at. I've had the privilege of helping a number of people with that one.
I saw the name of that on Facebook, and I didn't know where it was going. So,
Welcome to my world.
so, so essentially anybody could be lovable toxicity.
Essentially, anybody could. You have to look at what they are doing for you and why. And I've had to back away from some people that I absolutely adore. But I realized that when I was around them, I was no longer the happy person I like to be. I had learned what I needed to learn. I'd experienced what I needed to experience. I thanked them for what they gave and offered to me for my life. But now they're on the outside of the city walls. And they're going to have to ask permission to come back in. And I wish them well on their journeys.
How do you and how do other people spend time with people who are considered that you can't completely get rid of them? How do
You
you
have
act?
to,
What mask do you wear around them?
there's a lot of different metaphors that I use. MMA fighters get into the ring knowing that there's going to be a battle, but knowing that there's going to be a battle allows them to be better prepared for the hits that they know the other person is going to try and get on them.
And I follow that, but then I feel like I walk around with like a chip on my shoulder. Like I walk around not in the version that I like to be.
Who put the chip there in the first place? If your bus needs some armor because it's been shot at in certain parts of town, then you got to put the armor on and make sure that the driver isn't a scaredy cat that's going to freak out and pull over when this certain person tries to pull you down.
No, but then the driver is not the one that I like. The driver is just the one that shows up to get the job done.
Then give some of those personalities to a new personality,
Okay.
somebody who has the ability to have that knowledge that this part of town, this house is not a friendly environment. A lot of energy vampires in here.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to put the armor on. But can you paint the bus with a smiley face on front so that when we smack them and run over them and we don't stop for them to try and tear us down, at least they see a smiley face. Or put a smiley face on the back of the bus. So as you go right past them, they're like, but I would do... What the...
All right, we'll paint the bus.
There, see? You all have seen parts of my bus. My bus has a disco ball. It has big speakers. It's got four-wheel drive. It's got a bar. It has a grill. It has a dance platform on top. I've got some crazy drivers. They've driven through some parts of the world that allowed them to know there's a lot out there. There's a big, big world out there. And I don't have to put up with people that I no longer enjoy being around. Mm-hmm. Holly.
Love that. I'm gonna follow through too. I think if you feel like you have a chip on your shoulder, or the idea of being around somebody just makes your entire system, go to 100 on anxiety, frustration, whatever it may be. I think that's kind of like a dash light on your dashboard telling you there's I don't have a healthy boundary, and there might be the occasional time that you can't truly have one. I think the biggest example is, maybe you have an ex-spouse and you have kids in common. That's a really difficult situation because the courts are basically going to force you to let them have parental rights unless it's bad enough they could be in prison or something. But anything short of that, there is no one you can't cut out of your life. If a kid is being really toxic, your door may always be open, but it's like, hey, you could be here if you're going to honor the energy here. But if you aren't, I know you're my kid. I love you, but I can't enable this bad behavior. I can't have you around me. If you're my parent, if you're my sibling, you could cut a parent out of your life. You could, I'm not saying it's easy. But, or when you're in that place, you need to crack down on, so like, for instance, if you've got somebody who's coming over to your house and they won't leave, sometimes you need to call the cops. And I'm not saying it's 100%. There's a certain point where the law doesn't protect you, but one thing I've learned is that you've got to enforce your boundaries early. You've got to enforce them often. And once people know you're not playing around, they'll stop testing them. But you actually have to have them in there, and you can't feel bad about it. If somebody's behaving in a way that you need to enforce a boundary, they chose to activate that boundary. If you've communicated it, they know that what they did was cross a boundary, and you have every right to crack down on it.
Notice the title of the topic, Lovable Toxicity. The straightforward a-hole toxic people, they're the easiest ones to get rid of. It's the ones that are, the relatics, the besties, the ones you grew up with, the business partners, the people that you have to figure out how to manage on the daily. Those are the ones that this is about. And you may just simply have to figure out a way to put more armor on the bus, design a personality that can drive through the muck, that knows how to put the bus into four-wheel drive, that knows how to put the hammer down, how to shut the door, not pick up those passengers, and put on the right tunes to let you dance instead of get tied down. Learn a little screw you dance, like bye, you suck, da 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 da. Aren't you gone yet? Da 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 da. See ya. See, I've got lots of personalities. But we're also 7 minis into your guys' hour. So it's time for questions and topics from the attendees. Who's got a question or topic for the second hour? Okay. Let's hear them. I failed mind reading again this year, so you'll have to. Mark.
Again, regardless of our training, a lot of half our magic is asking the right questions when we're with a client. But I'm just wondering what's, again, the other half is telling stories. Like I said, whether it be, when you're telling a story, judgment shuts down. And I was just wondering if people had, favorite stories that they like to tell, that they seem to be repeating with just about all their clients. And because stories can be a very powerful learning tool. I was just wondering if you folks had favorites, ones that always seem to ring the bell with clients, and what some of those stories might be.
Great question. Who's got an answer for him? Holly.
I got one that jumped to my mind. I may have told this one in this group before, I don't know, but so my boss is really into, near-death experiences. So he goes to those, hear people's stories. And one of the people was telling a story about basically he was, I don't know if you want to call it guardian angel or whatever you want, whatever terminology you want to use. Basically, he was looking down on Earth and he saw two people. He saw a lawyer and he saw a homeless man. And he just, the angel, whatever guide said, "What do you see?" He says, "Well, I see our lawyer works really hard, dresses really well. And I see a homeless guy who clearly is addicted to alcohol, not able to take care of himself. And then his guide said, let me show you who these people are before. And he was able to see when they were planning their life together. And the lawyer and the homeless guy were both really, really good friends. And the homeless guy was actually one of his mentors, one of his tutors, and volunteered to come down as this homeless guy because the lawyer needed to learn compassion. And so he volunteered to be the homeless guy who was, able to take care of himself, be on this lawyer's daily route to and from work in the hopes of teaching the lawyer to have compassion for people. So I just really love that one because it just gives you that different viewpoint.
Great one. Who else has something for?
So I tell a story about going to a garden center, and when you go to a garden center, I don't know if you've ever been to a place like that, but they have like walls and walls of packets of seeds, and the variety is just unbelievable. I mean, you could choose to plant and grow pretty much anything you like. But, if you take a moment and you peruse the wall, you kind of decide what it is that you want to grow and plant and nurture. And so you look at the packet and, what do you, and I would ask them, what do you see when you look at the packet? What do you see? And they'd say, oh, flower or the plant, something like that. And so yeah, you'd see what it is the seed's going to become, right? So you kind of make your choice, and you on your way to the checkout to kind of pay for it, and maybe the assistant at the store will say, there's something you need to really know about this process and how it works. And that is that when you first get home, the first thing you're going to have to do is open up the packet. And see, when you open up the packet, then you have to look inside. And when you look inside, the first thing you're going to notice is that the seeds that are inside the packet look nothing like the picture on the front. They bear absolutely no resemblance to it. And yet, they have everything they need to become this amazing thing that they currently bear no resemblance to. And so maybe you get home and you're getting ready to plant your seeds. But there's one final thing you need to understand. And that is that when you plant them, you have to trust that growth is occurring below the surface. You have to really, really trust that it's happening. Because don't you think it would be a bit silly if you were to go back and dig them up and check to see if they were growing? And how much longer would it take if you go in there and keep analyzing, keep trying to figure out how much progress they've made, rather than just letting them step, letting them be, realizing the most fundamental growth, the most foundational growth, is growth that happens below the surface that you'll never see, but it can turn into something wonderful. So that's a story I like to tell about going to a garden center and picking up a packet of seeds.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else got any stories they'd like to share? Now, for any of you that have worked with me, you know that I'm one of those, I can come up with stories on the fly and make up analogies and metaphors and all sorts of funky stuff to try and help my clients. And stories in their own right are hypnotic in nature. That's why it's so good to learn how to be a really good storyteller. And there are lots of ways you can practice. There's classes on storytelling, there's classes on improv, and I think if you took both of those, it would help on many different levels. Confidence, humor, delivery, all the above. So anybody else got anything they want to add to this or questions on it or? Did you get what you were looking for, Mark? Cool. Well, now it's time for another question. Who's got something? Come on. Okay.
I had were you gonna go, Michael? Oh, okay. I had a question for you all, and it was 2 words that I was spending a lot of time thinking about over the last week. And I was thinking a lot about the words protection, and I was thinking a lot about the words safety. And the way that I had always perceived it up until most recently was that something needs protection, and as in almost that it's that it was weak, that it wasn't safe to let this person, this being, whatever it was, it needed to be protected because it wasn't strong enough to stand up for itself, or it wasn't strong enough to do something. So I was curious as to what the words protection and safety meant to you and what they were like in your life. How do you perceive them? How do you experience them? How do you share them? What does it look like? And if that's
Awesome
not clear, let me know. Okay.
Okay, who's got an answer for her? Don't all go at once. Come on now. Holly.
Give it a shot. So this actually is something I've been thinking about a lot too. They say, you always hear the questions that you need to hear the most. So, one of the things I would say too is so one thing is, first of all, if you are protecting yourself, like strength, all that is me protecting myself. So, if I don't protect myself, I'm not strong either. It's literally impossible to be strong. You can't protect yourself. So maybe I think when I think of the word protection, it's because I'm thinking of somebody else protecting me. But one of the things I'm learning, I think, at this stage in my life is the idea that I am not self-sufficient, and it's literally impossible for me to be self-sufficient, and that's okay because nobody is self-sufficient. And so it's okay to be part of a tribe. It's okay for our strengths and weaknesses to support each other. And so anyway, one of the things that kind of came to my mind is, I think it's Tony Robbins talks a lot about one of our needs is safety, or also the Maslow, our hierarchy of needs. When we have enough safety, we are able to go out, we're able to actually get things done, we're able to explore, we're able to grow. If we don't have any safety at all, we are so focused on survival and staying alive that we can't do anything else. However, if we get into that survival mode, whatever, and we start prioritizing safety as our number one thing, we will become so insulated that we never take risks, and we also will never grow. So safety is a place for me, is about finding that sweet spot. If I am not safe enough, that's not good. But if I am too safe, that's good. And so I think that's the big problem with the pendulum is we think that it's, it's either a bad thing or a good thing. It's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's a balance thing. And I think the same, I mean, protection is kind of a different word, but because it kind of almost to me implies, the external. But if I'm not willing to protect myself, if I'm always out there, I never wear the armor, that's not a good thing. If I'm opening myself up to somebody who hasn't earned, if I'm being too vulnerable with someone who hasn't earned that level of vulnerability in my life, that's not a good thing. I have a right to protect myself. But, just using kind of that fighting analogy, if I go into battle with no armor, that's not a good thing. But if I'm so protective that I'm never willing to go into battle for the things that matter, that's also not a good thing. And it's okay to not be self-sufficient. It's okay to surround yourself with people that you protect each other. That's totally fine. But once again, with protection and safety, protection is about not letting other things in. So not letting the bad things in is not necessarily a bad thing, but protecting yourself, not letting the good things in is also a good thing. So anyway, yeah, for me, they're both about balance.
Cool. Great answer. Dave's got his hand up. And your mic is muted, Dave. You got multiple hands up. Dave, when you get your mic figured out, let me know. But Michael has his hand up. Michael.
Hey, Lenora. Quick question. What specifically are you looking for between safety and protection?
So I was just curious as to what it meant to other people, but also how you protect yourself, how you keep yourself safe, but also how do you, especially as men, the men that are here, how do you give that to your significant other? Does that play a role in your life? Is it something that you think about? The reason I think about it a lot is for a number of reasons, but also I was always on the defense. Like I definitely, and I'm noticing it just very recently. As soon as somebody says something, like my alarm goes up and I'm automatically on the defense of, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. So as in, it's not really a way of protecting yourself as much as it is defending yourself and trying to find yourself like calming down from this higher alert state of thinking that you're being attacked. So it's kind of like a mix of things that I'm kind of just mulling over and looking into. So I like what you guys are all sharing. So thank you.
Asking several things there.
Me, never.
Never. So as far as when you get defensive, I mean, I think we've all been there, and that's from our childhood. That's stuff that TJ works on. Why do you have to defend yourself when you're just being yourself or doing the best you can? And that's a TJ thing because he's awesome at that. Is fixing that anyway, or addressing it. As far as men being protective of our significant others or our surroundings, I think that's a trained thing. And what we do is hopefully we tie into what Mark said and has, as far as having a strong role model. You're taught at an early age to look at your surroundings, and you don't want to be a victim. So, anyone who's alert, you're less likely to be a victim.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at different situations. I know I was trained as a kid by my father to say, okay, if you're driving and somebody comes in your lane, what do you do? And you have a plan for things that may or may not happen. But you're aware and you're looking and you're always planning for things. And that also comes into guys, we're fixers. And so we're trying to fix problems before they happen. So, And then as far as safety and being a woman, coming from your point of view, you also need to be aware of your surroundings and always looking. You don't go to the gas station and stay on your cell phone saying, "Oh yeah, look at this and look at this," and you have someone right there. Oh, they just snagged your purse, or something worse.
Yeah.
So always be vigilant and always be looking around.
Yeah. Well, that one I've definitely mastered, of being aware of. Let's just not go one for that one. Of being aware of your surroundings. So more like when people are, and I go, mine are very much in conversation where I happen to be, I think, very easily tuned to people, and I can detect the slightest shift in their voice, and I'm automatically trying to fix something, or I'm automatically trying to defend myself, rather than finding a way to simply stay calm and going, if something comes up, I know I'll be fine. I'm automatically on high alert. Trying
Is
to
that
find a way to
bad thing?
calm down. For me, I'm tired. I would like to calm down a little bit and not be so defensive. So that's just me.
But how do you fix that?
That's a great question. That's why I'm asking my tribe.
Well, but you're the only person who knows how to do that for yourself.
Well, that's why I'm obtaining inventory and reflection, and I'm gonna see what works.
So if you had an idea what it looked like, what do you feel it would look like?
Right now mine looks like a very high wall.
Yeah. And you put the walls up pretty quick.
Oh, I'm very good at it. Yes, thank you. I get an award for it. And nobody misses. Thank you, Michael.
Well,
Mark.
Well, since again you were talking about safety and protection, and the squirrel that just won't shut up in my head is quoting Lao Tzu, and he said, "The secret of strength is in the guarding of that which is vulnerable."
I like that one.
Okay, my squirrel's gone.
we'll take it a little deeper, go a little further with that.
You know, guard well your heart. You know,
I think that also ties in. It's much better to be a warrior in a garden than it is to be a gardener in a war. What I came up with what my squirrels delivered, we know my squirrels have squirrels who know squirrels. If you were to think of it as a house, because I've done property maintenance and built lots of stuff, but a house for many is protection against the elements, a place where you bring all the things you own and all of this stuff, but it's also a dangerous place. A lot of people don't realize how dangerous a water heater is. And so there are safety items on things like your water heaters. There are safety items on the electrical system in your house, like the breakers, the GFIs, all of those things. And even though you're interior, you're in protection, you still have safety devices in that location as well. And depending on how you grew up, what your environment was like, what belief systems were put in your head, you may feel that your house has to have bars on the windows and has to have 3 deadbolts on the front door and got to have a safety room, an escape room. And if you take that analogy to humans, how were you raised? What belief systems were put in there? Do you have a highly sensitive security system? A mouse walks by and the alarm goes off, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, we've got an intruder! Get in the safe room! We're all gonna die!" And then you got the people that, grew up the way I did, where they're like, well, you're leaving for a week. Did you lock the door? No. You didn't lock the door? No, because we don't have a key. You don't have a key for your door? No. And the keys stay in the car. You leave the keys in the ignition in your car? Are you crazy? Didn't think so. Been doing that for a long time. That's how we grew up. And so there will be, yeah, perfect. Grew up in Brooklyn, locked everything down. You bring in your chair off of the porch? Yeah. And so in that, we learn different ways of dealing with things. Same with dealing with people. Some people grow up where they have the privilege or whatever to be able to trust people at a level that other people don't understand. Some people grow up around vicious, vile scorpions that are narcissistic, that gaslight and do all the other things, and they have to put bars on their windows and 5 locks on their doors, and they have to lock up everything because of the environment they grew up in. And when they get out in the country and look at these people that, when we moved here, our neighbor came over on day 4 to see if I was dead. Literally, because the front door of the house had been wide open for 4 days. Wide open. Like somebody could just walk in. I'm like, yeah. Yeah. They could be a bad person. Be like, well, then they'd be a dead person. But,
There's no such thing as bad people. It's just that moment where you interact with them, your experience was not necessarily brilliant, but I'm sure that even they have a best friend who would tell you that they're the greatest person in the world.
Well, I've had this discussion with a number of people.
Now, I'm not saying there aren't sick people who are actually psychotic, right? I'm not saying psychosis doesn't exist, but I'm saying, I mentioned this last week, we're doing this whole thing about good and bad and how to become a bad person. There's no such thing really as good people and bad people. It's just a matter of, because a lot of us, if someone disagrees with us or they do something that is outside of our belief system or our way of doing things, doesn't match our checklist, violates our values, then we label them as a bad person, but maybe they're not being bad from their own perspective. So it becomes a whole discussion about morality, and who's doing the judging,
That's why I tell my relationship clients, if they're not your king or queen, it doesn't mean they're a bad person. They're just not your king or queen. They may be your 7, but they are somebody else's king or queen, because that other person has different values and criteria than you do. Holly.
So I've been working a lot on defensiveness. I'm not saying I'm there yet, but I've learned that there are 2 kinds of defensiveness that I have. One is when someone gives me criticism that's valid, and what's hurting is the fact that it's valid. And whether it comes from good energy or bad energy, obviously the energy behind it can change it. And then there's also the criticism that isn't valid. And I feel like I can't defend myself against it. So I'm going to kind of go into both. So the first thing that I'm learning the first question I ask myself is, I'm feeling defensive. Is this because and once again, this could also be, I just don't have a healthy boundary or something too. But is this something that is valid? And if the answer is yes, whether it came from a good person or a person who was toxic and was trying to get under my skin, but they happened to have something that they said that was valid, what can I do? I think from that side, they're attacking what I am, and I can become something different. How can I take this to become a better person and be grateful that I found out about that instead of walking around unconscious and not realizing? There's that side. Then there's the other side of, what if it's not valid? And I have two analogies that I go to. And like I said, I'm still learning, I'm still going, but these do help. One is, I call it the purple dinosaur with pink spots analogy. What if somebody came to you and said over and over again, stop being such a purple dinosaur with pink spots? There's an energy behind that I still would probably get defensive about. But then there's a point where I take a step back and say, not only am I not a purple dinosaur with pink spots, it's ridiculous that someone would think that I am a dinosaur a purple dinosaur with pink spots. And so, why do I care so little about my own opinion, my own knowledge? I checked to see if it was valid. I know it's not. If they are so delusional to believe that I am a purple dinosaur with pink spots, why am I even having the conversation with them? Why do I even care about their opinion? Why can't I just let them have their opinion? And then the other one that I go to is, back in the days when I was a substitute school teacher, I was substituting a kindergarten class. And we were discussing the stock market crash. They'd been watching a movie and whatever. And I'm like, oh, I've got my master's degree in accounting. This is perfect. I've got the class that I could teach. And so we started talking about what caused the stock market to crash. And the first kid raises his hand and says, it's because the government wanted money, and so they took all the money out of the stock market. And then I'm like, oh, interesting thought, but these are kids, right? I'm like, that's a good thought, but no, does anybody else have any ideas? Next kid, same exact answer. Third kid, same exact answer. And finally, the fourth kid said, well, that's what our teacher told us. Anyway, some of the kids, I was able to have a discussion with the fact that, the stock market isn't just a big bank full of money, and the government doesn't just have the ability to come in and take it. I mean, it's much more complicated than that. But at the end of the day, some of the kids were not convinced. But I had to remind myself, these are kindergartners giving me the best answer they can after being in a room with an adult that they trust for almost a year, who's been telling the same story over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. So, I could feel they're at their place. They're either ready to hear the truth or they're not. But my question is, why am I caring so much about the opinions of someone who's immature, uninformed, and has been led astray by somebody that they trust? I could still love them. I could still care about them. But I don't need to defend myself against their facts. Either they will accept the truth or they won't, but that's not my problem. I happen to have more wisdom. And once again, it's not about, I'm not considering their opinion and seeing it correct. Once I know it's obviously wrong, I do not need to defend myself from that, because they're going to have their opinions, whether they think I'm a purple dinosaur with pink spots, or they think the government took all the money out of the stock market because they wanted money. Either one of those, they're not true. I know they're not true. I gave them their fair share. I do not need to defend myself. I do not need to change their mind. I just need to own the truth and wish them well and hope one day that they're able to figure out what is true. But that is, of course, like I said, only after asking myself, do they have something of valid that is actually valid? And is there something true in the non-truth that I can internalize and say, thank you for making me more conscious. Thank you for helping me find the next thing that I need to work on in my life.
Great answer. Thanks for sharing that. Michael.
So Holly, first of all, several squirrels popped up. First one, it's not a tumor! Kindergarten cop. That's my wife Anyway, does that make sense, first of all? Holly? Did I lose you?
Yes.
Okay. So, first of all, I want to say you're doing great and you're on the right track. And other squirrels that popped up were, is it going to matter in a year what these people say, or will it matter in 10 years? And how would you feel? The next one was Selma Hayek. And Selma Hayek did a talk show. She was talking about, how people get so offended when someone calls them out or calls their name or makes fun of them or whatever. And she said, so if you don't speak Spanish and somebody starts cussing you out in Spanish, how are you going to feel? And it's kind of in tune with your purple dinosaur. So if somebody starts just rambling and ripping you up and down in Spanish, you're probably just going to smile and wave. Does that make sense? No? Okay. Crickets?
Mike's up.
All right. Well, cool.
All sorts of good stuff on here. Did that help answer your question, Lenore? All right. Do we have another question or topic for the last 19 minis? Come on, y'all. I know some of you have books of questions. Holly.
I know I've been asking a lot of questions the last couple of weeks.
No, always good.
So I've been thinking a lot about the word hope this week, and I've been getting kind of contradictory responses. So I'm just curious, when I say the word hope, and it's okay if people have contradictory answers, and I might get answers on both sides too, so just throw that out there. What does the word hope mean to you on any context? What comes to mind when I say that word? Hope this week, and I've been getting kind of contradictory responses. So I'm just curious, when I say the word hope, and it's okay if people have contradictory answers.
Anybody else hearing an echo?
So just throw that out there. What does the word hope mean to you?
It's okay, I figured it out. There we go. Okay, so could you repeat the question real quick, Holly?
What does the word hope mean?
Hearing an echo?
So throw that out there. What does the word
Go ahead. Holly?
did you not hear it? Just the question is, what does the word hope what do you think of when you hear the word hope?
Who's got an answer for her?
I hear two things, Holly. I hear the phrase "hope is the bastard son of try" or something like that. That being said,
Yep.
I also have I do like hope. I think hope gives me a step up out of despair, and it gives a shining light, and also helps me transit. I like it as a bridge, if that helps. Getting you over towards certainty, or saying it depends on if you're going, I hope this is going to work out, or I hope this is going to lead to something, versus I hope this is going to work out. So it depends on how you're using it also. Those are on that one. I feel like they were a little scattered. I apologize.
You're on. Who else has an answer? I think hope is one of those incredible little ingredients that we need in life that I don't think we should use as a main ingredient, but as an enhancer. You do the best work you can in the hopes that it will turn out. The hope is the sprinkle of flavoring to it. It's kind of like planting flowers or planting anything to grow. If you're just planting it, going in it, you're either going to live. Hope is the sprinkle of flavoring. And so with that, I think when you take away hope, it's a vital ingredient in there to help things move along. A lot of people that were put in horrible situations in their lives have said that the only thing that got them through was faith and hope. You read what Viktor Frankl went through in his book, and a lot of people in that situation survived until they no longer had any hope. And unfortunately, that's my little take on the word hope. And yes, it is you can't use it again as the main ingredient to try and get things done. I hope that we can build this house, even though we've never done this before and we have no experience and we don't know what we're doing. I hope it'll work. Probably not the best use of hope. We have all the plans, we've hired the right people, we got all the materials that we need, and I hope that it turns out the way we envisioned. That's a nice little sprinkle. Yeah. Michael, you want to explain that one?
Yeah, the drowning rat, what they did is well, obviously do lots of studies on rats, but they took a rat and they put it in a pool, and it takes exactly 8 minutes and 15 seconds for most rats to drown. And they sink and they die. If you pull it out, 8 minutes, 14 seconds, 8 minutes, 10 seconds, and you dry it off, give it a few minutes to feel good, and then throw it back in the pool, how long do you think it lasts before it drowns? Lenora?
Anybody want to take a guess? Who hasn't heard the story?
Yeah, I know.
It's pretty impressive.
It's way impressive. It's almost 3 days. And that's because they have the hope that someone's going to rescue it again.
Mm-hmm.
So hope is pretty dang strong if it's used correctly.
And the last part of what you said is exactly that, when it's used correctly. Very strong ingredient, but it shouldn't be your main ingredient unless absolutely needed. Anybody else got any input on this? Mark?
What you said, TJ, about it being an ingredient, it's almost, if it's used as the main ingredient, well, hope fades. And what Nora said about it being the bastard child of try, well, that's when you rely entirely on hope, I think. And but the main, but if you're baking a loaf, again, you have to add a little yeast, otherwise the entirety of the the production it won't rise. And so it is important ingredient, but it shouldn't be the only ingredient.
Yeah.
You know, and the Andy Dufresne Shawshank Redemption quote that hope is a good thing, but it shouldn't be the only thing.
Absolutely. Great answer. Anybody else got anything else, or do we have one more question that we can toss in for the last 10 minis?
Jump in real fast and just say, first of all, I love this tribe. Thank you so much. I think it's hilarious that the two things that were throwing me into is I had just read the Viktor Frankl thing about people dying when they lost hope. And the first thing I thought is, but hope is the bastard son of try. How do I reconcile these two things? So, love this tribe, but thank you so much. I think you did a great job of explaining it. So I got my answer, but I just had to say that. Thank you.
I gotta be honest with you guys. I am not a fan of hope. And my intention is not to throw a monkey wrench in the program, you know, but I'm just not a fan of it. No. Like, obviously, I agree that if you are in despair and you're in the darkest parts where, you know, you are really, really up against it and fighting, then you should have hope because it springs eternal, right? But honestly, if you're at the point where you're relying on hope, then you already let shit slide too far already. And you could have corrected it way, way earlier and caught yourself way, way earlier and done something about it way, way earlier. And it's your own damn fault. I'm sorry, but that's just how I feel about it. That's how I feel. Sorry. No. You should never.
Sorry,
like if you are more self-aware, and if you are paying attention to what's going on, and if you are listening to your body and listening to your feelings and paying attention to your unconscious thoughts, you should never get to a point where you're relying on hope. I would much rather have faith than have hope every single time.
Elijah, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir. Please, please.
Are you a parent?
I am not a parent.
Okay, I'm not either. But are you a fan of Robin Williams?
I am a fan of Robin Williams, in particular the genie
So
in Aladdin.
Robin Williams did a little talk show host, and they were asking him, you know, and he pulled a Howard Cosell impersonation, and he says, you know, we as parents, you know, we don't know, because you look at the act of sex and what happens, and then he goes into a Howard Cosell bit, and he says, you know, it's like a punching bag. It could have been bad sperm, it could have been good sperm. You don't know. You've got the hope that your child's going to be saying, I'd like to thank the Nobel for this. Or you have the fear that they're going to say, do you want fries with this? It could have been bad sperm, it could have been good. You've got to have the hope. And so anyway, that's my answer to your hope.
I got to be honest, I disagree with it, bro.
It's
Be honest,
okay.
you know, because nature greater than nurture greater than nature. You know, with the way things are and the latest studies and all the knowledge about epigenetics and how you can change the expression of the gene and all of that. There's no.
It's okay. I still love you.
I love you too, bro.
So I want to do a TEDx on this very specific topic, not so much hope, but leads me into the hope situation. I like the idea of this being a very help yourself kind of world, especially when it comes to the self-help community. Help yourself. I don't like the name self-help. I much prefer help yourself. Some days you might want mac and cheese. Some days you might want mac and cheese sprinkled with a little bit of bacon. Either way, as long as you enjoy it and it gets the job done, that is the outcome we're enjoying and we're aiming for. So if it works for you, keep it. If it doesn't work for you, go find something else to add to your mac and cheese.
Could not agree more. Could not agree more. I'm not saying that you have to do it my way. I'm saying I personally don't like it. You know.
And I would like to thank Nobel for these fries. They're just what I hoped for. Okay, we got 6 minis left. Who's got something to add to this? And there's silence. Well, do we end early, or anybody got one more thing they'd like to add?
Maybe I give another story for Mark.
Sure.
Always.
Okay. So I don't know how any of you have ever heard of this guy. His name was Milton Erickson, and he had some physiological distresses. You know, he was a medical doctor himself, hypnotist, but he had some problems, you know, with his own health. And he went to see his doctor, and his doctor said to him, Milton, you know, I think you need to change your state of residence. I think it would be really good for you if you were to change your state of residence. Milton, being the way he wasn't just going to go to the next easiest to reach state. He decided to kind of figure out which state was best for him. And so he began to go down, even further down, all the way down, south, to the state of Arizona, where he and his wife moved into a place. And when they got there, to their new house, there was a whole mess of rubbish, really. Garbage, trash, shit, it's a technical term, left in the garage. And they had to clear it out. Milton said to his wife, you know, this isn't even our shit. I suppose it's probably a good idea if we don't hold on to other people's shit and kind of just have a big clear out. So they got rid of all the shit that belonged to other people, and that garage actually became really famous. He used to do his classes there and teach doctors and do tests with hypnosis, and people would travel from all around the world. They'd get off that curb, they'd be walking maybe 20 feet away from the garage, walking forwards towards it, thinking, you know, I've really come a long way to be here. And I'm going to take the most of this opportunity. 10 feet away from the garage. Thinking what it's going to be like to step through that doorway and really experience change. 5 feet away. And then before you know it, you'll be past 3. And then you too can be one. If you're unconscious now, stepping through that doorway to a place where magic happens, stories are told, people change in ways that seem miraculous and impossible. Now, I don't know if you ever know that, or if anyone's ever told you that before, but that's kind of what happened when Milton first moved to Arizona. Yeah.
What a great way to finish off the night. I appreciate that.
Such a bedtime story, Elijah.
All right.
That was a good hypnotic cadence you dropped into too.
Uh-huh. A master.
Took a while to practice that one. I had to rehearse it.
Well done. Well done. Well, my friends, here we are again at the end of 2 hours. Bada bing, just like that. And so I get to thank you guys for once again sharing your precious commodity of time, because as I've said many times, I haven't figured out how to reproduce it and hand it back to you. You guys will know as soon as I get that figured out. But until then, thanks again for sharing your commodity of time on this platform so that we can continue to share the thoughts, ideas, information, protocols, and all the fun stuff that goes on here. I appreciate you guys more than I have the vocabulary for. So please go out in the world, live the best life possible, make it a better place like you already have. And I'll see you guys back here in 7 days.
Hey, TJ, really quick on that note.
Yeah?
Elijah, I just want to let everyone know, I hope you all have a great week.
And I have faith that they will.
Which is based in hope.
And I
love you guys.
want to thank Nobel for these fries. You guys are awesome.